Okay, let's start. So thanks again for joining. What I'd like to do is to cover a topic around moving WebLogic to OCI, if that's one of the patterns that you're thinking of doing. And I'd like to talk about a new service from Oracle that can help address some of the issues that are involved when moving anything from on-premise to cloud, some of the things that you need to consider and that can help you along that move. So let me share my screen again. So safe harbor as always, some of the things I'm going to talk about are new and upcoming. So moving Oracle WebLogic server up to the Oracle Cloud is a topic that we're talking to you about. It's one of our key messages that will help you enhance your application environments. And some of the things that we're talking to you about there and why you should do it is that ability to provision environments in minutes, automated deployments using WebLogic provisioning wizards and Terraform scripts. And also it gives you unmatched database options. You can use autonomous database that can underpin your applications. They can be deployed on Exadata, bare metal, VM based. It can be other than autonomous if you want to do that. And it adds security into the database that's there. And it also gives you high availability out of the box that's there with availability domains that are inside OCI. And so it enhances the whole WebLogic infrastructure that you've been used to managing on-premise. And we move that up into the cloud and you get all these additional advantages that are there. So those are the things that why we're having a conversation with you. Let me start to tease out some of the things about what I want to talk to you about, because yes, Oracle are talking to you about this move of WebLogic up to OCI, if that's what you want to do. But there are some other things that we can think about. And if we look at the poll, we can see that that people are considering over the next 3 months to a year, are definitely looking to move WebLogic servers up to the cloud. But do you understand what your current workloads and all of their dependencies look like? Because that's a key thing that you need to understand when you're considering this. Do you know how efficient your current utilization levels are? So, just looking at what you're doing now on premise and just matching that in the cloud might not be the right thing to do if you've over provisioned those environments. So actually knowing, and not just taking a look now, but over a long period of time, what's your typical usage? What does seasonality look like over that time? Really getting an in-depth understanding of what your usage looks like. And do you have an accurate measurement of what performance looks like now? How those transactions perform? And if there are any issues, will they disappear when you move? Will that move get rid of some of the performance issues, or will they still be there? And what happens if, when you've gone through the move and you've moved the application up into the cloud, your users start to say, oh, it feels a little bit slower than it did before? How do you validate that? How do you understand whether that's real? What aspect of it is slower? How do you debug that performance issue if it's real? But first of all, you have to understand whether it's real. And will the current way that you manage your environment transition with you into that move to cloud? And will you have an ability to monitor and manage your cloud-based WebLogic applications now alongside your on-premise ones in a single tool, in a single pane of glass with a single set of services? So back to the point, why do I want to manage and monitor my environments? So just some reports from the analysts around what the issues are. 12,000 12,000 outages in 2020 so far. 80% of issues are reported by users first. You know, we've got to get ahead of the curve with these things. We need to be working on errors, hopefully even solving them before an end user gets impacted. But at least if they do get impacted, because it's a fairly quick transition from where the problem starts to where it manifests itself in a real problem, at least we need to be ahead of things. We need to be proactive in a way that we're addressing these issues. And it's an interesting one from Gartner, because even at this point in time, you know, I've been working in a management and monitoring space for 20 years. You know, even now, Gartner is still saying that only less than 15% of organizations are going to have a proper holistic monitoring service for when they're looking at their cloud environments, that's going to give them the information that they need in order to be proactive in the way that we're doing things. So the challenges that we face with these things are fairly common, and they continue into the cloud space. So, you know, we often have multiple tools doing the monitoring at different layers, different aspects of the infrastructure and the application. And all of that data tends to be siloed out. That complicates the analysis of any problems. Problem detection and resolution is difficult because I'm having to open up different tools. I have different teams working at looking at a problem if it's not clear where the problem resides. And point solutions where I have something that's just looking at logs or just looking at infrastructure or looking at application performance, they lack that full stack visibility in order to do proper troubleshooting. Because again, you start to analyzing one tool, find it's not giving you an answer, you jump into another one, then you jump back to the original one because it's giving you an indication of where it might be, and it just gets messy. I also end up with a mix of on-premise monitoring management tools and cloud-based ones, because I'm trying to transition to something that's modern, but I then lose that view between the two, because I'm often integrating back to on-premise applications, in those applications that I've either deployed as cloud native up in the cloud in a SaaS environment, or I've moved something onto like we're discussing now. I've moved my WebLogic from on-prem to cloud, but I still want to integrate something back on-prem. I still need a single view of what's going on. And that lack of interoperability between those tools, where I can just jump between looking at different aspects of it and see the data in a single view, is really important. And it needs to be heterogeneous, and it needs to be multi-language. You know, I'm not proposing, and when I talk about the services that we're going to talk about today, it's no good it just being Oracle. It needs to be broader than that, and it needs to be multi-cloud, and it needs to be on-premise, and it needs to be all things. So what I'm going to be showing you today is something that breaks down those monitoring data silos. It enables monitoring diagnostics across every single tier of the stack. It supports cloud native and traditional technologies. It provides availability across on-premise and cloud deployments, whether that's Oracle Cloud or AWS or Azure. And it offers a interoperability, thank you, as a native feature that's there. We did an announcement in October of a new observability and management platform. So this would be one of our main open world announcements that we were going to be making, but of course COVID has changed the way that we've been doing that. So we've been doing virtual sessions. So we announced this in early October, and it's a range of services that pull together that full stack visibility that I talked about. We have a logging service, which is a free service just built into Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It's a place where OCI native logs will just flow into, and I'll have a ability to view some of those logs. But that logging service becomes a source of information into logging analytics, which is one of the main components of observability and management platform. So now I have something that's doing more than just correlating logs together and giving you a log view. I'm using all sorts of machine learning capabilities to really understand in depth what's going on inside those logs and to give you a view that's, rather than that daunting prospect of trying to look through hundreds of thousands of log records, I hone you in on the important aspects of those log records to help you do root cause analysis and understand the way that your applications are performing and what's going on within them. I also have application performance monitoring that gives me that end user view of what performance looks like right out to their browser or their mobile device that they're using, but all the way down through the application stack and down into the database tier as well. I have a database management tool that gives me a view of what my database performance looks like and the ability to do performance diagnostics and some tuning capabilities around there to improve that performance. I have operations insight that takes the monitoring data that I've been capturing and then looks at it over time and gives me an analytics view of what that looks like, so that I can use that against capacity planning, so I can predict forward based on months of data that I've been capturing. I can now confidently predict forward 30, 60, 90, 180 days out into the future what my capacity requirement look like and at what point in time I need to do something. And even in cloud, where we talk about elasticity and things like that, I still need a budgetary view of where I'm going to have to increase capacity in my stack as well, so that I don't get any budgetary shocks around that. It might automatically expand my environment, but I need to know that there's going to be an uptick in cost when that happens. So I need to be able to get that predictability as well. And the analysis also will give me performance analytics around what does my environment perform on, what does it look like now, how does it look like compared to a month ago, am I seeing degradation in performance, and then have the ability to analyze why I'm getting that. And I have another free service in the stack, which is Service Connect Hub, which allows me to move data around different points, either within our service or even into external third-party tool sets. So let's have a look at log analytics in a bit more detail. So it's this way of ingesting log files. So it's not only from the logging service, I can bring it in from anywhere within cloud or other clouds or on-premise, and I can bring those into my logging analytics tool and get a really easy visualization and an analysis of those log patterns and identify outliers of things that are odd and unfamiliar that don't normally occur. It's topology aware, which means I understand all the related elements of an application across the whole stack. So now when I'm actually looking at things and I want to investigate a problem, I might start off looking at something inside a WebLogic domain and look at some of those WebLogic log files. But if I then want to go and have a look at other aspects of the stack, I can just expand that view and it knows which database log files to get, which host log files to get. And I'm always looking at these things in the context. So when I'm looking at something at 10:15 on a Wednesday morning in my WebLogic logs, and I then want to go and have a look at the database logs, it knows which database logs to go for, and it will let me view them at around 10:15 on a Wednesday morning. So they're all tied together. When I ingest those log files out of my environment, I have the ability to set archive policies against those logs, so that now the service not only becomes a really, the go-to way of looking at my logs, so that they're easy to read and all of those odd things get highlighted to me nice and easily, but I can archive them as well, so that it becomes my way of fulfilling regulatory retention requirements for my log files in a nice, cheap, easy, low-cost way up in the cloud. And I not only have a rich collection of over 250 out-of-the-box parsers, you know, that way of understanding what the log files look like and normalizing them up into logging analytics. But as it's doing that, it also enriches them as well. So, you know, particularly around Oracle technology log files, it makes some of those rather complex log record statements more readable, more understandable. So it'll explain what an Aura 600 message, error message is, rather than you having to remember what that is or going to have to look it up. And when I'm looking to make use of that, you know, collecting all those logs together, automatically associating the logs to the other parts of the infrastructure that underpins my application. Applying machine learning to that so that I can aggregate the same types of logs and the same types of entities there. And I can use things like link, which allows me to link log records together. So, you know, in WebLogic terms, I could use an ECID in order to link log records together right the way through, you know, the various WebLogic log sources, but also down into databases, because, you know, if you're up to date in that technology, that ECID will flow right the way through the application tier and down the database tier, and those flow into the log records, and I can tie all those together. So I'm almost looking now through those log records at a transaction level, right the way through my stack, through the various log records that are there. So I can easily search and analyze the data, you know, because I'm always in context and looking at the right data sources, data log sources that are there. And I've got custom WebLogic dashboards, both out of the box and ones that you can create yourselves, that will show me the most important analysis and give me those insights into what I need to understand. And I can create alerts so that when certain log records appear, I can be alerted to that. That'll flow through notifications in OCI and go out to whatever notification methods you want. But I can also, as I flow through that, I could choose to have an Oracle functions capability that will remediate the problem. So if I know it's a problem that what would normally happen when it gets to a technician to resolve, they would then run a script that would resolve the problem, and that's what they do all the time. And what we're effectively doing is saying, oh, go and execute that script. We can automate that process as well. So we can speed up again that resolution. Application performance monitoring sits, if you like, above all of this, and is looking at what end user experience of my application looks like. So do I understand what my end user performance looks out in that browser, out in the mobile device that they're using? I will have deep monitoring of the underlying application middleware stack as well. I'll understand what performance and availability and load analysis looks like across the stack. I can use synthetic monitoring to get a typical user journey view of what's going on from multiple locations. You can use Oracle-based points of presence to kick those off from, so you can get a global view or a regional view of what performance looks like, or you can indeed just use your own locations to kick those off. I'll capture the whole tracing capability, so Java Flight Recorder, all of those things will be captured, so I can get real fine-grained problem diagnostics. And for modern architectures, it's compatible with open tracing and open metrics. Excuse me. So, you know, we talked about, you know, why is this going to be relevant when I'm looking at moving from on-premise to OCI? So I alluded to some of the things that were there around what you needed to know in order to have a secure move. So, every migration holds a certain amount of risks and some level of uncertainty. Question, what should I move? I need to understand what my application looks like. So I talked about earlier about what does my environment look like? What are the dependencies there? So do I fully understand what the dependencies are on my application? And therefore, if I know what the dependencies are, I know how much I have to move. So if I have something that's tightly integrated with a lot of activity between an environment, then I should move that as well as just simple parts of just one application. So understanding what my dependencies are, what that activity looks like is really quite crucial. I need to be able to prove that the move was successful. Why have I moved it to there? If as part of this move I was expecting to get a 10 or 20% performance uplift, as well as some of those cost savings associated with moving to the cloud, how do I actually do that? How do I prove that with real metrics that shows that it's actually happened? And if I want to prove that it's increased by the 10 or 20% that we were expecting, I need to understand what that baseline looks like so that I can prove that that 10 or 20% uplift was achieved. So I need to measure on-prem performance, baseline it for all my users. I need to measure on-premise WebLogic resource usage, so I know exactly what my resource usage looks like. And because I can measure that and store that information over time, I can get the sort of seasonality out and get my peaks and troughs, and I can see what that looks like. I can also see if there's a trend of increasing utilization, so that when I'm planning to move to the cloud, I size it in a way that's ready for that increase. And I want to be able to do that compare before and after, so that I know that that the performance has improved if I was expecting it, but also it does away with that, end user saying, oh, I do feel it's a little bit slower. I have some real solid metrics to say it is or it isn't, and that's good. If it isn't as good as it was, I have some detailed metrics on which part of my application and the stack is not performing as it did before, because I've got benchmarks across the two. And it helps you make that informed decision. It minimizes the impact of the move. It helps you save money and reputation, and it proves. So this is one of our customers that has made extensive use of the technology.
Hi,
and gaining the benefits.
I'm Stephen Ching, CIO of Kingo Group. We at Kingo are committed to providing exceptional lifestyle choices for people living exceptional lives. And that's why we've chosen Oracle's Observability and Management solution to watch over our most important applications and their respective cloud environments. We're now getting real-time insights into residents' app usage with automatic alerts of anomalies, and 95% of critical issues are resolved before users are impacted. We also now have the capability to identify code-level performance issues 10 times faster. We couldn't do this without the built-in machine learning technology of Oracle's solution, which automatically correlates app telemetry with back-office events and logs. Oracle's Observability and Management solution is essentially a guardian angel to our cloud, keeping us safe and making my team members happier as he takes the dull and repetitive work away from them. And above all, it helps us deliver mission-critical services and great experiences to our customers.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick step through. I don't want to bore you with all of the real details of this. So just giving you a view of what some of the capabilities there are. So, when we're looking at deploying this solution out there for you, one of the really key things here is one-click discovery. So I point the tool at your WebLogic environment, and it will discover all the components that are under there and their associated underlying databases. It will give you an instant insight into that with pre-configured dashboards of what's actually going on. I've got my machine learning that's going to give me all of the views that are out there, and my end user monitoring. And, you know, this view of how we move to de-risk it, you know, so understand what my environment looks like on premise. Step one, measure on premise resources to get my baselines. Showcase the value of the move to the cloud. So let's see how it looks compared to what it looks like on premise, and maximize the value once it's there, because I continue to, this is not a migration tool, this is a way of easing you through the migration and then continue to monitor the environment as you go forward, ensuring that it's performing at its peak, ensuring that you've got optimal usage, and having that predictability to know when capacity is going to increase for you. So again, baselining, accurately measuring your capacity needs, understanding normal and peak loads, using machine learning to understand it. And this is important because I need to understand what normality looks like in order to be able to predict forward, so that it can not use some of those anomalous performance glitches that have been there when I'm trying to trend things forward. Demonstrate what those improvements are like. So do that side-by-side comparison between the two environments. And as I move forward, make sure that I can diagnose any issues that come up in my new environment, and make intelligent rebalancing and utilization decisions in that new cloud environment. So I'm up to the half hour. Any Q&As?
I saw one of the questions that says if this is just for WebLogic or not.
Okay, so no, as I mentioned here, earlier, entirely heterogeneous. So I don't care what environment you're using. We're just presenting this in that WebLogic move to OCI context, so you could see how it would benefit you. But it could be WebLogic, WebSphere, Node.js, .NET. I don't really care. And as I said, located on-prem, in our cloud, in AWS, in Azure. Again, I don't care. I can do that. If you look at that as a mixture of technology, I could have a .NET application in Azure that's integrated into something. Let's say it's WebLogic that's running on OCI, that in turn integrates back into WebSphere running on premise, and I can stitch those all together and get a view of what performance looks like across that and across their integrations. Okay, so in the deck is a link to additional resources, so you can get more information around there, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well, indeed. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. Hope that was useful. Do reach out to your Oracle salespeople. We can showcase this with you. We can come and have one-to-one meetings with you to discuss how this will work for you. And we can do in-depth demonstrations to show the technology, and we can run workshops with you as how you will adopt it, and we can assist you in deploying this in your environments. Okay, thank you very much.